Okay, so welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
We love to get into these really specific things and kind
Yeah.
of pick them apart and really get to the bottom of what's going on.
Right.
And today we're going to be looking at Pinoy Big Brother,
Okay.
and specifically Fyang's When.
Uh-huh.
And we're using this podcast as our source material.
Okay.
I think a lot of people watching PBB or following along on social media were really fascinated by her.
Yeah.
And I know I was.
Mhm.
And this podcast that we're going to deep dive into did a really good job of kind of explaining like what made her so compelling
Right.
and how she ended up the big winner. So I'm excited to kind of get into that.
Yeah, and I think too, like one of the things is like this is more than just like a reality show win. You know?
Yeah.
It's sort of like I don't know, like a case study almost in like how to just like be a good person and how that can actually lead you to success in a really unexpected way.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Well, so what were your first impressions of her? Well, it's funny because watching her enter the house, she's so calm,
yeah.
and usually the contestants are trying to make a big splash.
Right, they want to be seen.
Yeah, and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm the, the loud one.
I'm the funny one.
or the, whatever it is.
I'm the one that's going to stir the pot or whatever.
Yeah, and she just kind of came in and was just like,
Yeah.
everybody. And, but what they talk about on the podcast is that she immediately started forming these really genuine connections with people.
Yeah.
And, but at the same time, she was playing the game.
Mhm.
She understood the strategy.
Yeah.
And the podcast host actually pointed out
Yeah.
that she had this uncanny ability
Yeah.
to know when to speak up and when to listen.
Right.
Like she really knew when to assert herself and when to kind of hang back.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid to like.
Layla. Oh yeah, when it was necessary.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's a really interesting quality because it speaks to, I don't know, I think natural leadership.
Like people who can kind of read a room and
Read a room and know like when to step in and when to step back.
when to step back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it makes me think of like in business or in any kind of
Yeah.
collaborative environment, like being able to kind of read that room
Right.
and know when to contribute and when to we just kind of absorb. It's such an important skill.
Such an important skill. And I think it speaks to her like emotional
Yes,
intelligence.
absolutely.
Being able to kind of like read those social cues.
Yeah.
And understand like, okay, maybe this isn't the time for me to speak up or whatever.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
maybe it is.
Exactly.
Maybe this is where I need to step in.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think too, going back to that idea of like this being more than just a reality show win, like she kind of subverted the expectation of reality TV.
Yeah.
Where it's usually so much about like the big personalities and the drama and the backstabbing and all that. And she just kind of came in and was like, I'm just going to be myself and I'm going to connect with people. And that's what won her the game in the end.
Well, and to that point, I remember watching her in the challenges.
Yeah.
And I think they talk about this a lot in the podcast too, is that, she surprised people with her strength and resilience.
Yes.
Yeah,
Those
like
challenges.
she's a petite woman.
Right.
And, there was that one really intense obstacle course I think they all had to do where they had to like climb over this slippery wall.
Yeah, they had to like climb up
swing
and
across these rings and
Yeah.
it was intense. And she
was intense.
crushed it. Like she did
Yeah.
not give up. And I think that moment for a lot of people was like, wait a minute. There's more to this woman than meets the eye
Yeah, there's an inner strength there.
that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that that's a really good example of how she kind of consistently exceeded people's expectation. And it wasn't just that, the podcast also talks about how she handled those like interpersonal conflicts that inevitably come up when you're living in a house.
Close quarters.
Yeah. With a bunch of strangers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like remember how she dealt with that whole thing with...
Oh, there was that one
Yeah,
there was
where
a kind of a misunderstanding. And it could have really blown up into this big dramatic thing.
it
But
could
she
have.
stayed so level-headed. And she
Yeah.
really just focused on like resolving the situation calmly and fairly.
Like coming to a resolution and understanding.
Yes. And I think that's where her like genuine heart really shone through. You know, it wasn't
Right.
about like
Yeah.
winning an argument or proving someone wrong.
Yeah.
It was about
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it wasn't about like her ego. It wasn't anything like that. It was about genuinely trying to resolve the situation and maintain that harmony in
exactly.
the house.
And I think that that's something that a lot of us can learn from, because it's so
Yeah.
easy to get caught up in those like, you know, conflicts and arguments
Yeah, those little
Yeah.
dramas.
and feel like we have to be right or that we have to
Yeah, have to win.
you
Yeah.
know? But she really showed that there's another way. And I
Yeah.
think that's so powerful.
Yeah, and I think too it goes back to like what you were saying about her being authentic. You know, like she wasn't putting on
Yeah.
a show; she was just being herself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people really connect.
And you know,
with.
she also had this like playful side too. Like she
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
afraid to,
yeah, she knew
Yeah,
how to
be
have
silly.
fun. Yeah,
you know, and I think that that was really endearing to people as well,
yeah,
because it
for
showed
sure.
that she was like well-rounded. You
Yeah,
know,
like a full person, not
Yeah.
just like a
you know,
robot
yeah,
playing
exactly,
a game.
exactly. So I think that that's important to note too, that she wasn't
Right.
just like all serious all the time. She knew
Yeah.
how to have fun, and she knew how to, you know, just be lighthearted and playful.
Yeah, and I think those lighthearted moments like really contributed to those
Mhm.
strong relationships that she
Oh,
built in
absolutely.
the house. You know, like she had such strong relationships with a number of the other housemates.
Yeah.
And I think each of those relationships really brought out different facets of her personality. You know, like with one person, she might have been the supportive friend,
Mhm.
and with another person, she might have been the empathetic listener.
Yeah.
And then there were even moments where she allowed herself to be vulnerable and share her own struggles and insecurities.
Yeah, and I think that was really powerful for people to see, because it showed
Absolutely.
that she was human.
Yeah, she wasn't afraid to show her
Yeah,
humanity.
and that she wasn't perfect, but that she was still, you know, this amazing person who was capable of forming these deep connections with people.
And I think it makes you think, like, how often do we see that level of genuine connection, especially in a high-pressure competitive environment?
Yeah.
You know, like, you would think that in a situation like that, people would be more inclined to, like, be cutthroat and
Dabbing?
backstabbing
Yeah.
and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah. But she really defied that
Yeah,
expectation.
and the podcast goes into detail about her relationship with one housemate in particular.
Right.
And it really was like beautiful to watch. You know, like
Yeah.
they really brought out the best in each other.
Yeah, they were so supportive of each other. And you
Right.
could just tell that there was this deep level of trust and respect.
Right.
between them.
And again, like it just speaks to what's possible.
Yeah.
You know, when we approach the world with that kind of openness and that kind of heart.
Yeah, it's a reminder that human connection is possible, even in the most unexpected places.
Yeah. And that it can be such a powerful force
Yeah.
for good.
For good.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, of course, there's the finale.
Yeah, the
I mean, can you
finale.
believe it when they announced her as the big winner?
Oh my
So the whole
God.
country was celebrating.
Yeah, it was like a collective sigh of relief,
Yeah.
almost. You
Yeah.
know, like people were just so happy
Yeah,
for
and
her.
it really did feel like a victory for everyone
Yeah.
who values kindness and
Yeah.
resilience and
And staying true
staying
to
true
yourself.
to yourself.
Yeah.
You know? And I
Yeah.
think that's why it resonated so deeply with people.
I agree.
Because it showed that you don't have to sacrifice your values to succeed.
Yeah, you don't have to play
Right.
dirty. You don't have to be cutthroat.
Exactly.
You can be a good person and still achieve your
Yeah.
goals.
And that's such a powerful message,
Yeah.
especially in today's world where it can feel like everything is so competitive and cutthroat,
Yeah.
and you have to like step on people to get ahead. You
Right,
know?
right.
So yeah, I think that that's the beauty of Fyang's story, is that
Yeah.
it's a reminder that success isn't just about achieving your goals. It's about the way you achieve them.
Yeah, the way you
Exactly.
get there.
Yeah.
The journey.
And that's a really valuable lesson, I think.
It is, and it leaves me with a question for you.
Right.
Like, how can you embody Fyang's qualities in your own life? How can you lead with your heart, build meaningful relationships, and face challenges with that same resilience?
That's a great question. I think I'm going to think about that one.
Yeah, me too.
Well, this has been a really interesting deep dive. I'm
It
so
has
glad we
been.
did this. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks
And
for
we'll see
having
you
me.
next time.